As most people who are familiar with this type of content knows, the Colombo War of the 1990s ended in favor of the Persico faction. Their fear of Vicarina taking over the family no longer existed. Yet, despite being victorious, the Colombo family and the Persico's control of it were on shaky grounds. Naturally, the imprisoned Carmine Persico, who still remained the boss, held a grudge on any members who sided with the Arena faction, one being Bill Cutolo, who was a captain in the family and one who not only sided with Arena, but was considered Arena's strongest ally. Allegedly, Cutolo and his crew were responsible for at least 3 murders of the Persico faction. As a punishment, Persico knocked Cutolo down and took away his captain position. However, a short time later, Cutolo was reinstated due to him being a big earner and having a solid crew. In and around 1998, Carmine Persico's son, Ali Boy, who was freshly out of prison, was made the family's acting boss. And as a show of good faith, Cutolo was placed in the acting underboss position. It's a fact that jealousy runs rampant in the mob. There'll be some guys who are happy to see you succeed and others who are envious. And that's when the mob's rumor mill begins. For instance, Colombo member Joe Campanella owed Cutolo $300,000, which was for loan sharking money. And while Campanella still owed the money, he went out and purchased a new Mercedes. Apparently, this news had Cutolo enraged. Here's a guy who went and purchased a $100,000 car, yet still owes you money. And allegedly, Cutolo made a statement about breaking the windows on the Mercedes. Campanella went to John Jackie DeRoss, who was an influential captain, one very close to the Persicos, and he complained about Cutolo. DeRoss's answer to this grievance sets the stage. He asked Campanella how would he feel about killing Cutolo, and Campanella explained that he was upset, but he didn't want to kill him. Let me put this into proper perspective. Campanella was just a soldier who was actually in Cutolo's crew. And he went to go speak to a captain in the family about a grievance he had with Cutolo. And it was suggested about killing a member of the family's administration. Keep in mind, Cutolo was the acting underboss at the time. And this only demonstrates the length that a few people were going through to eliminate Cutolo. In addition, a Colombo loan shark, John Floridia, also part of Cutolo's crew, had lied to Cutolo about how much money he had out on the street, which in simple terms means he was shortchanging Cutolo whenever he kicked up. So Cutolo took $50,000 that was Floridia's end of a robbery and taxed him an additional $25,000. And when Floridia didn't pay the $25,000, Cutolo had guys give him a beating. Floridia complained to John Sabone, another Colombo associate, who was close to Colombo member Vincent Chicky DiMartino. When Floridia explained what took place to DiMartino, he told Floridia, "Don't worry about it. This guy's not going to be around much longer. I'm going to call Jackie," meaning DeRoss, "and you're going to meet with him and tell him exactly what happened." When Floridia met DeRoss and explained what took place, DeRoss told him, "Don't worry about it. Things are going to change." So this is the second time that DeRoss let it be known that Cutolo's days were numbered. But things would take a turn on February 18, 1999, when Ali Boy Persico was on a 50-foot yacht named Looking Good in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He was headed to Key West when the boat was intercepted by the Coast Guard. Following a search of the boat, a .380 automatic with ammo and a Mossberg 12-gauge shotgun with shells were found on the boat. With Persico back in prison facing weapon charges, the Persico faction feared that the powerful Cutolo would make a move to take over the family. And even though Persico was released on bail for the weapon charges, it was inevitable that he was going to do some time. Consequently, the Persicos wanted to take Cutolo out. And the order to do so came from Ali Boy, as Dino Calabro, a Colombo associate at the time, would detail. Tommy Sciaccioli, a Colombo captain, summoned Calabro to the back garden at Our Lady of Lourdes Church in Massapequa, Long Island. Gioli was very surveillance conscious and would often meet at the church. While in the garden, Gioli told Calabro that he had just left a meeting with Pooch and Betty Boop. code names for Alley Boy and Jackie DeRoss. He then made a sign with one hand, most likely of a gun, and then tucked two fingers in, indicating that he was referring to Cutolo, who was missing fingers on one hand, and besides Wild Bill, was sometimes called Billy Fingers. Gioli was letting Colombo know that the order came down to kill Cutolo. On May 26, 1999, a meeting was scheduled under false pretense between Cutolo and Alley Boy. That afternoon, Cutolo had some car trouble and visited his mechanic in Brooklyn. And he had his mechanic drop him off on 92nd Street and Shore Road in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. It was an area where he often met with Alley Boy. They actually would go down these steps to talk so they would be out of view. Earlier that day, Cutolo told his wife that he had to go to a meeting with the kid, which he called Alley Boy. But Alley Boy wasn't at that location. Instead, Gioli met with Cutolo and drove him to 1968 76th Street in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, a house that belonged to Colombo associate Dino Saraceno's family. When Gioli and Cutolo got out of the car, Dino Calabro met them in the driveway. According to Calabro, we shook hands, and then Cutolo questioned him. Alley's here, right? Where we going? Which I find sad, because it was at that moment that Cutolo sensed something wasn't right. An unexpected change of plans definitely had his antennas up. They led Cutolo to a door that would lead to the basement of the house. In Bensonhurst, there's either a side or a back door which leads to the basement. And in this particular house, it was the side door. Cutolo entered first, and according to Calabro, I followed him and pulled out my gun and shot him in the head. He just went, whoa, and fell backwards into the closet. The hit team then removed Cutolo's jewelry, which included a watch, as well as his beeper. They would later place these items in a bucket filled with cement and toss the bucket off a pier in Brooklyn. They wrapped Cutolo's body in plastic garbage bags and left his Italian loafers on his feet. They then tied him up and placed him into a blue tarp. It was initially believed that Cutolo's body was taken on a boat and dumped at sea. However, Colombo associate Joey Cavs Campitello began cooperating and in 2008 gave up the location where Cutolo was buried. Former Colombo captain Reynold Marani, who also began cooperating, recorded a conversation with the Vincent Manzo Sr., who told Marani that Gioli showed him where they buried Cutolo and said that Gioli waited in a car at a Dunkin' Donuts while the hit team was doing the burying. Campitello led the FBI to an industrial area in East Farmingdale, Long Island. The FBI evidence response team began digging in the wooded area, and on October 5th, 2008, they discovered Cutolo's remains. Let me remind everyone to hit the like icon, as well as the super thanks icon found beneath this video for anyone who'd like to show appreciation for videos like this. Here's reality. You honestly have no friends in the mob. When it comes to their loyalty, it's easily swayed. And as I've always said, it's easier to go against one than many. Bill Cutolo did absolutely nothing wrong to warrant that kind of an ending. And one of the main plotters, Jackie DeRoss, should be ashamed of himself, as Cutolo once stood in for him as best man at his wedding. The day after Cutolo went missing, DeRoss went to Cutolo's house and demanded from his wife all of her husband's paperwork. He would return several times, again looking for the paperwork, even going as far as to search the entire house. What he was looking for was Cutolo's loan shark book, as well as any money that Cutolo had stashed. So here you have Cutolo's family, who knew he disappeared and were knowledgeable enough to understand he was never returning. And they sat by and had to watch his friends try to steal his money. Here's the moral of this story. To all you mobsters out there, the next time you're sitting at a table eating with your brothers, your crew, I want you to remember Bill Cutolo, because in that life, you have no friends and you mean nothing to them.